Have you ever had a conversation so interesting that sometimes it just bears repeating when it comes down to Pokemon ethics? So, let's get into it. Alright guys, I'm Andy with Northwoods TCG, and today we're going to get back into it with some Pokemon ethics. That's right, I'm kind of curious to know what you guys have to say about this ethical opportunity here in the Pokemon TCG. What are your thoughts on this? And I'll go over my thoughts at the end, but I'm going to give you the story of what occurred here, and you let me know in the comments what you personally think about this. So, we were at a card show here this weekend. My wife, my friend's wife, and myself were all at this card show. He was vending. I was just kind of chilling, hanging with him, talking to him, and I was just checking out other vendors, checking out different booths, kind of walking around every once in a while. My wife and his wife were going out and having some fun. They were just going out of the venue and then coming back, just spending some time with us while we were there. Really, really fun time. We were just chilling, relaxing, and just talking more than anything through the weekend with different individuals that came through. In the Pokemon hobby, he was also selling Magic and other trading cards and some sports cards too. He does a full gambit of different things. But I was out walking the aisles, and I came across a booth that the person was actually just about out of stuff, and so they were kind of closing things down on Sunday, and they had a box of different cards that had them for $15. So these were just $15 graded cards. Figured I'd look at them. Sometimes you can find some really good deals, some really good opportunities and something like that. Someone just doesn't want to haul them back, doesn't want to spend the time. Hey, these are my last ones. I made good money. Let me just get rid of these so I don't have to deal with them anymore. Or maybe they just haven't sold for several shows. If you do go to card shows, make sure that you guys are checking these out because there are some good opportunities to pick up some really good slabs. So the card in question is going to be this one. Yep, the card in question, this one. This is the card that we're having a huge ethical question about. And as you can see, it isn't anything spectacular. It's just a $15 card. It's a CGC 8.5 Charmeleon from 151. I went and purchased this one along with like 4 or 5 other ones. Now, the Charmeleon card is what really started the debate because the other ones are pretty well valued regardless of how they are. But that Charmeleon is actually really undervalued from the raw to the graded 8.5 CGC. Now, why is this an important part of the story? Well, when I got back to the booth, I sat there and talked to my buddy, and I showed my buddy, hey, these are the cards I picked up. And we kind of went, yeah, I said I want to put this one in the binder. These were just going to be cracked. I'm going to put them in binder, no big deal. But the Charmeleon, I have a couple of them. So I really don't need it for my binder collection. And I said, hey, I'm just going to crack this open. I'm going to throw it on TCG Player. Why not? Right now they're selling between $25 and $28. Great opportunity just to crack this thing open, you know, get it out of the slab, put it back up for sale, and then make a few bucks for traveling over to this venue and making up some of the expenses because, of course, I bought way too much just like I always do. But my wife overheard this, and my friend's wife overheard this, and they went, you can't do that. What are you doing? I'm like, what do you mean you can't do this? Well, it's the ethics. This is unethical to buy a card that you know is graded at 8.5, crack it open, and resell it for a higher value than what it values at an 8.5. And we kind of looked at each other, my friend and I, and you know, my stance has always been, when it comes down to grading cards, it's subjective anyways, in my opinion. To me, grading isn't that big of a deal. You know, it's whoever graded it at that point in time. You know, even my point is that, and I even explained this to them, my point is that it's a subjective matter. When it comes down to a graded card, just because I got an 8.5 this time doesn't mean that if I resend that exact same card to CGC that it isn't going to get a 9, a 9.5, or even a 10. We've seen some very, very big shifts in grades just by who grades this. And the same thing, you could take this card and send it to PSA. Just because it got an 8.5 at CGC, to me, doesn't mean it isn't going to get a 9 or a 10 at PSA, which would, of course, increase its value. But they kept insisting that you know this, you know, and you keep going over and over and over with this with them, and they just were kind of arguing about it. And it's fine, but it did bring up the ethicals. Like they said, is there an ethical issue to taking a graded card, cracking it out of a slab, knowing it's a lower grade? Let's just say, worst case scenario, it's a 5.5, a 6, and you crack it out and you go and resend that out as a raw card. Are you going to be technically doing something unethical at that point in time? Now, personally, I don't think so. If you label it correctly on the raw scale, and that's what I was trying to explain as well, there's also a difference between the graded scale and the raw scale when it comes down to these particular cards. And this is going to lead up to another question that I have for you guys. And I said, when you look at graded cards are usually scaled 1 to 10. You get 1 to 10 and sometimes half grades in between, depending on the company that you use. But generally speaking, that's kind of the grading scale. There's a gem mint, near mint, all the way down to damaged categories. So there's a different array of categories that goes inside of there. While you go into the actual raw cards, there's a different kind of scale. There's that near mint, there's that lightly played, heavy played, moderately played, and damaged. And there, of course, there's a similar, but not quite the same, a little bit different aspect to it. So, and this is where my next question comes up to you guys when it comes down to when you're listing cards on TCG Player. Do print lines, now hear me out, do print lines have to actually be considered lightly played? That's a very interesting question because technically they're not lightly played. That's just a printing error when it comes out of the printer. Do you list that as near mint or do you print that as lightly played? Because I could pull up pack fresh, near mint, never used, never played, sleeved, sent out immediately. Is that a near mint or is that going to be considered a lightly played? Let me know as well. That's kind of another interesting one when we're talking about graded cards, raw cards, where your position is and the ethics of what goes into these particular cards. Now, I know I have personally bought near mint cards that have print lines in them. Happens all the time, especially with the Japanese, with the Master Ball hollows and the reverse hollows that we were getting inside of those. Same things in a lot of the actual some of the other cards inside of the English versions as well, especially GX and some of the other ones. We used to get heavy print lines in them, and when they would get heavy print lines in them, they would be sold as near mint because that is a printing error. That isn't anything that was done by the user. That isn't done by playing the card. That is just right off the presses, and it's done that way. So it's kind of one of those gray areas when it comes down to Pokemon cards as well. Personally, I label them as lightly played. To me, if they have some kind of defect on them, even if it sucks for me, I'm going to put them in that lightly played category, but I may put them on the higher end of the lightly played pricing just because it isn't got any edge damage, it doesn't have any kind of bad corners, doesn't have any scratches or any of that. It's still really, really close to near mint, but personally, that's that ethics period of where you sit there and can talk about, is that ethical to sit there and list that as a near mint when it has a print line? And I know some people will list it the other way, and I'm sure that conversation can be had as well. But my bigger question is do you think that it is unethical to take a card that is way undervalued because it graded low on like CGC, on PSA, any of these particular grading sites, cracking that open and selling it back out there as a raw card? Now, I looked at this Charmeleon. There's really nothing wrong with it. I don't know why, until I break it out of the slab, I really don't know why it got an 8.5 CGC. Who knows? The centering looks really decent. The overall card looks like it doesn't have any scratches or anything on it. I'm really not seeing any reason for it to have the 8.5 until I get it out. Maybe there's some scratches. Maybe there's a mark. There's no whitening on the corners. The edges look great. So once again, it's really one of those subjective points when it comes down to the grading that, to me, if you can buy these particular cards at grading at a good value, crack them open and sell them more for raw, in my opinion, as long as you're taking that card and listing it on your listings for the raw side correctly and putting them as near mint, lightly played, moderately played, heavy played or damaged, I don't feel that there's anything wrong with of that being ethical or not. I think that is a completely ethical move. I think that there's some great opportunities right now. Because right now, of course, in the grading world, it's a 10 or bust on most situations. A 9 might break even. 10 makes you big money. Anything below a 9, you're just going backwards. So there is an opportunity to break that open and get back to at least that raw price, maybe down $15 for sending it in and grading it. But overall, I think that when it comes down to the Pokemon grading side of things, I don't think that it's unethical in my opinion. That was my friend's opinion. My wives completely disagree with that. I'm just kind of curious to know what you think about that. So let me know in the comments of what you think about whether or not this is ethical or is a practice that we should not be doing in the Pokemon hobby. And it'll also be a poll that I will put up in the release of this video over on the community page of YouTube that you can go ahead and also let me know in the polls. I'm kind of curious to know what you guys have to say. That being said, hopefully this is a good video to kick things back off. Hopefully you guys have had a fantastic summer so far. And if you didn't know, we are moving into North Carolina here next Saturday. So as this is being released, we are in North Carolina right now for Collecticon in North Carolina. So please come and join us. We're going to be having some fun, relaxing, meeting some people. I'm not selling anything. I'm just coming out to visit with people that I know and enjoy the time there at Collecticon. We will also be at Chicago, so I will be at Chicago as well. So we'll have 2 Collecticons this year. It's going to be kind of fun just to hang out with people and different people on each one of them. So other than that, guys, thank you everybody for watching. As always, make sure you guys hit that subscribe. Make sure you guys hit that like button. And if you could, since we're just getting kicked back off again, hit that share button. It helps out a ton. We also do lives every Tuesday here on Northwoods TCG YouTube. And we will see you next time here on Northwoods TCG.